Let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
This use of U.S. military firepower is unprecedented.
Targeting drug smuggling boats with military strikes. There's no legal precedent.
And it's another example of Donald Trump breaking laws within the United States.
That is a look at what the media is saying about Donald Trump and the Republican Party, but it's just not the case. We are at war with cartels. We want to protect America's youth and then stop the drugs from flowing that are killing them. It's the best way, the only way. Why I'm all in on this, even if the lawyers are not.
Number 2.
Some of the individuals have been doing this for a long time. There's an organization to it. They're on social media. When they started, was not a thing. But now, with the social media piece and the way that they communicate, we're definitely doing everything we can to put together all the pieces to this.
ICE under attack, Portland, Chicago, Los Angeles, and more. Why it shows Donald Trump was right to put them into the fray and why they're needed to straighten out those cities. Too bad the local police are not allowed to help.
Number 1.
The amount of money that actually is going towards people who are undocumented is such a small portion.
We got to make sure Americans have the health care that they need. And if that means we got to shut this government down, so be it.
Oh, that's fine. Shutdown continues intensifying very, very intensely. While the GOP seems to have the upper hand, is there a risk for the midterms? Should it linger? And should mass layoffs take place, even if it should be happening because with $36 trillion in debt? Griff, what do you sense right now? We've been through so many lockdown shutdowns. Sometimes you get the sense who's got the momentum. You kind of knew the Freedom Caucus didn't have the power to do what they were doing. Senator Cruz in 2013, shutting down the government till you eliminate Obamacare, didn't have the numbers. I get the sense that the power and leverage is with Republicans right now.
100%. And let's also not forget that in 2013, when Ted Cruz was shutting the government down, it was one Senator, Chuck Schumer, who called government shutdowns the politics of idiocy. That was literally his quote. He's had a change of heart. But to your point, the leverage is with Republicans because you have one side that is saying, listen, let's just pass a clean, nonpartisan, simple extension to keep the government open till November 21st. And we'll talk about the healthcare subsidy extension that you want to, but let's not shut the government down and cause pain and difficulty, as we just saw in the last one that lasted 35 days in 2018, 2019. But in this case, one side simply says, let's just pass this, keep things open, and we'll talk to you about your thing. The other side said, no, I'm taking all my toys, going home, and damage be damned. And that is never a winning argument to demand it. And now it's backfiring on them a little bit as we continue to lay out how this exactly works, that illegal aliens are getting free health care in states like California.
But some are worried. In the Wall Street Journal today, some GOPers are worried that they're going to get blamed for creating and might create some vulnerability because everyone's about to get letters, as they do every year, for their insurance premiums. Now, a lot of people should never have gotten Medicaid. They never brought the money down after the pandemic infusion of dollars. But when the numbers go up, will they get blamed? Some moderates are saying, let's continue the subsidies until after the midterm. Senator Mike Rounds says to walk away from these people that are losing insurance would not be good politically or morally. And there's about 24 to 40 million people enrolled on Obamacare. Do you see the other side to that?
I do see the other side to it. And listen, healthcare is a difficult issue for Republicans as well. That's why they are wanting to take a measured approach to it, but they know that they can't ultimately bring something that's going to damage millions of Americans. But I don't know if Republicans are going to get such a huge blame out of this, because what we're learning in this shutdown is there is the case of millions that came across the border illegally that were paroled legally into the country and then started to qualify for some of that Medicaid. And that's what the Republicans and the big, beautiful bill sought to cut out, because ultimately you should not be able to get free health care if you're an illegal alien. But the other thing I'll just add quickly is that when you look at the way that those Obamacare health subsidies were juiced by Democrats under Biden, you're talking about $1 trillion.
So much
nearly
more than they ever said. And every year they got to be subsidized, and Biden threw all the money at it. And then Trump said, if you're not going to repeal it, I got to fund it. So he's like, who came up with this program?
Right. And the larger theme of the Trump administration was always going to be to cut the spending down. And so to give way to the Democrats, you're doing anything but cutting. You talk about these programs DOGE has killed, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. When you're talking about $750 billion, that is a lot of money, and no one's going to be on board for growing our debt to that level.
Here is Nancy Pelosi. She has a real balanced approach about who's to blame. Cut 4.
Trump and Republicans are now inflicting a painful shutdown on the American people because they refuse to protect America's health care. And Congress doesn't extend the Affordable Care's enhanced tax premium tax credits immediately. Hundreds of thousands of families, now we're talking about California only, will lose their health care.
So, by the way, if you, for people who say that there's no provision to pay illegal immigrants, they do it in a different way. Money flows into these hospitals. 50% of all this money is reimbursed by the federal government. These hospitals are general practice. They function as general practitioners, the emergency room especially, for illegal immigrants. Because Ronald Reagan passed a law that anyone who has to get health care if they enter a hospital. So if you get there, who's paying the bill? These hospitals are getting reimbursed. It went from California getting $1.6 billion in 2023 to $6.4 billion now in 2024. That was just last year, and that number is going to rise even more. There has to be a sense that somebody's going to rein this in. They don't like because this all passed in the big, beautiful bill, which has nothing to do with the shutdown.
No, it's not. And you've got senators like Democrat Senator Jeanne Shaheen, retiring New Hampshire senator that was on your show on Fox and Friends on Thursday. You guys were talking with her. She looks like she may be leaning towards crossing over and cracking.
Politico has her as the whisperer.
Yeah, the whisperer.
The Democratic whisperer to get in there and say, can we get this done, please? Because I'm against shutdowns. She voted in March with Schumer, one of the 6 to 7, to put him over the top to allow our government to be funded.
And the negotiations, look, Thune and Johnson have both said that there will be no negotiations while the government is shut down, but they are willing to negotiate on these healthcare subsidies. So Shaheen is trying to get some of her more moderate Democrat senators on board to say, listen, let's get in principle a Washington handshake version of something that will get done, that we can get this reopened, get the government reopened, and then work towards something that actually Republicans can accept. Whether or not we see that this weekend or next week is anybody's guess.
So I want you to hear what Dan Abrams said. He was on his Sirius XM show. He runs Mediaite. And he talked about, look, stop leaving the facts out of this debate. And he took on MSNBC, cut 15.
The way that the fact checks have been happening from the media would make you think that there is no argument that Republicans can make at all about people in the country illegally getting any additional health care as a result of what the Democrats are suggesting. And that's not true. But it's also not true what J.D. Vance is saying. So here we are in the situation where Republicans, led by Vice President Vance, are vastly overstating what Democrats are proposing. And yet you still have the media fact-checking in a way that I think leads to more undermining of the media's credibility, because they're making it so all or nothing, and it's not.
They also want to look at, remember we had this debate just to pass in August, to pass a big, beautiful bill about eligibility. You know, Medicaid is meant for people who are disabled, who are hard times, unemployed. But when you're able-bodied, there's going to be a work provision for you to continue to get it. And they think it's going to have the effect of the same thing welfare reform did under Bill Clinton. People, when they had to work, jumped out of it. And they said, okay, there's going to be a limit to the unemployment and there's going to be a limit to the welfare. I'm going to have to get a job. That's what they think will happen on the Medicaid side, because this is all unsustainable.
Right. And it's important to point out, because to Dan Abrams' point, let's fact check this. The poverty level of recipients for Medicaid was increased 3 times up to the 400% poverty level under the Biden administration. Republicans came in
poverty level?
above. Yeah, sorry. And the Republicans came in the big, beautiful bill and said, no. This is crazy. This is crazy. You know, if you can work.
Because you're 400% above the poverty level, we shouldn't be giving you free health care.
Exactly. I mean, I think most Americans can understand the common sense part of that argument right now. And that is a weak position that Democrats will bring to the table if they're trying to keep it at levels such as that.
All right, there's going to be there could be as much as, there's already been 300,000 jobs cut out of the federal government since Trump took over. That's the Elon Musk Doge Group, which is still working. There could be thousands more cut out over the next few weeks. Now, is this the right thing to do overall? Yeah, because we have $36 trillion in debt and we're just making interest payments are basically bankrupting us. But the other thing is, I just feel bad for the middle-class family making a combined income of $110,000 to find out of nowhere I lost my job. So I do want to see a soft landing for people. So those 300,000, most of them got offers to leave in September, get 6 months with pay, just move on. So these people, I just don't want them to look and realize I got an email that I'm fired, because everyone's perception of federal workers is they don't work hard. And I think that's wrong too.
100%.
So
100%. And I've got friends
and you
that
know them, yeah.
I have a lot of friends that are federal workers. I just was talking to a woman as a neighbor of mine that got let go. It was part of the reduction in force, a RIF, that came before the government shut down. This was last week. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think that...
Just give them some time, right?
Give them some time. Well, 750,000 government employees were furloughed. That's what happens in a government shutdown. But in this case, you do see Caroline Leavitt making a strong case and others in the Trump administration saying that, look, there are jobs that will be eliminated because of our original plan in reduction in force. I do think, by the way, one thing that we could see coming out of all this, and we don't know how many jobs will be eliminated actually out of this. We know that President Trump intends to do that, but I think we could have legal challenges coming out of this.
I want to get your take on what's happening with Venezuela, the drugs and everything else, because you have another area of expertise, Griff, and that is the border. So let's leave some time on the back end. Bottom of the hour, we go into the economy and, of course, take your calls at some point, or you can write me, BrianKilmeade.com. Just click on comments. Don't move.
Pretty soon I learned
now, that is not number 25, Eric. I asked for cut 25, but why are you playing Taylor Swift?
Happy Taylor Swift Friday. I'll just say this, Brian. What a great day to be alive. To get all day to listen to the brand new
today.
Taylor Swift has outdone herself. Now, Eric was playing the fifth track, Eldest Daughter, which, as I was telling you on Fox Friends, is the fifth track is always the emotional one. On previous albums, you had All Too Well, which is like one of her most famous emotional songs. My eldest daughter, Madeline, got me into Taylor Swift. I woke up at 4:30. I went
You woke up at 4:30 because you had to be on the show.
I had to be on the show at 8:20, but I needed time to listen to the whole album. I've gotten through almost all of it, but I went first to the Eldest Daughter because I knew that, as I told you before, Taylor Swift would wield that magical, emotional sob sword and just slay me with it. I just got the tears out, got it out of the way.
So you're perfectly willing to say that you cried when you heard this. You are an adult male.
I am man enough.
You are you're an
grown
adult male.
ass
you can't
man.
Cry.
Say if you don't sit down and listen to that, and you're a father of a daughter, particularly an eldest daughter that got you into Taylor Swift, and you don't tear up, you ain't got a heart. I'll tell you.
Well,
but I will say this: the majority of the album is about her newfound love with Travis Kelce. It's a positive, happy album.
Can you believe it?
And and her message is like, hey, it's okay to be happy.
But you know the problem. When you write a song about happiness, like, for example, Uptown Girl, right? How does that sound when Billy Joel sings it? He's talking about dating, being married to?
Brooke Shields.
No, he didn't marry Brooke Shields.
Oh, I forgot who it was.
Christy Brinkley.
Christy Brinkley, that's right. Yeah. It's the same era, same supermodel.
And then,
sorry.
I love you just the way you are. He sings that. Yeah. And he divorced that woman. He said my new lines was, she took the cars, the key. She took the house, the keys, the car. So that it becomes from a love song. Shouldn't you wait to see if the relationship's going to work before you write about it?
I'll tell you, she's just laying out her emotions, pouring her heart out there, and it is moving the nation this morning.
It's
Billboard
moving the nation?
is already on it. I do think this, though.
You know, James Comey also shares your passion.
Well, I can't. I'm not going to comment on that. I mean, he needs to just do his thing. He's got enough problems. Leave Taylor Swift out of this. But I will say, these songs, these lyrics, like the famous songs of Billy Joel and love songs of the past, Taylor Swift is not only a mega superstar, which is what most people see, she is perhaps the most poetic, skilled, gifted lyricist of our time.
She writes it all. All right, so I want you to hear this. If you don't mind, Eric, do you mind if I squeeze in some news? Is that right? Sure? You're not going to just play another song? All right, here is Todd Ringel. He is the assistant special agent at HSI over in Oregon. Cut 25.
This spans back many years. Some of the individuals have been doing this for a long time. There's an organization to it. They're on social media, which when they started was not a thing. But now with the social media piece and the way that they communicate, we're definitely doing everything we can to put together all the pieces to this and draw it into more of an organization versus simply individuals.
They're trying to take down what I think is an Antifa branch that has just been trying to destroy the ICE building, harassing ICE agents over in Oregon, Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, and you saw that Oregon lawmakers and I guess the attorney general out there has moved to try and sue to block the potential of the National Guard coming in. But then you watch what's happening on the streets with Bill Malugin out there reporting. How can anyone, let alone a Democrat, decide that I'm going to take the side of those rioters?
But the mayor and governor have.
Yeah. Right. And we're seeing him do it time and time again, doubling down, not only in places like Oregon, but in LA and Chicago and Boston. The same playbook that is a losing playbook when you've got this issue. We talk about it's 80-20 issue. I think it's more like 90-10 or better that the American people across partisan lines are saying.
What are ICE agents telling you? We're up against it. But what are ICE agents telling you? Because they're not getting support from local cops. Do they want to do this job?
They believe in their leaders, Tom Homan, Todd Lyons, and they are committed like never before. Morale's never been higher, they tell me.
Saturday and Sunday, 6 to 10, Fox and Friends weekend.
That's right. Tune in. It's going to be great. Maybe Taylor Swift will join us.
Let's see. That'll be something. That's a big tease. So let's go to Congressman Brian Mast now, Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on the Middle East, North Africa, and International Terrorism. Congressman, first off, I don't know. You guys don't have to even stay here, right? There's nothing for you guys to do.
No, like you said, House of Representatives passed the bill, moved it forward. This is a couple of weeks ago. Said, Senate, do your part. Now go move it forward, fund the government. Senate Republicans voted on it. Senate Democrats said, no, you know what? It's more important for us to get things in there to continue spending and burning and wasting more of your money to give illegals health care. That's been one of the big talking points because it's true. They would rather do that than save American tax dollars. And right now, as they've said, they're not going to budge until we burn more of your money.
So one thing that they have, and Trump's a master at this, leverage is his OMB director knows exactly what programs he wants to cut. And Speaker Johnson mentioned that yesterday, cut 7.
Now, if you had a Democrat, a big government woke progressive liberal sitting in that seat, they'd look at that balance sheet very differently. But Russ Vought has been given the authority to do this, and he's been given that authority by one man. His name is Chuck Schumer. Okay, Chuck Schumer led the Democrats in the Senate to hand that pen to Russ Vought. And I think there could be some good that comes out of it if we limit the size and scope of government, but it is not a job that he relishes.
And he will be cutting programs and jobs. What have they told you about this?
Look, let's not just talk about this ambiguously. Let's use specific examples. You take something like woke agency, Department of Education, that the administration says, okay, you're saying somebody doesn't have to come to work because their work is non-essential. Well, if their work is non-essential and they're a woke agency, why are they coming at all? This is the time to get rid of that position, and this is the way that it's looked at.
So how do you feel, Wall Street Journal writes today, that there's a feeling sometime, and even though you guys feel like you have the leverage and are confident, that you do worry about the perception of cutting jobs at a time in which the job market does not make people feel that confident? You worry about that perception.
You're not having a goal of just getting rid of a job. You're having a goal of saying, if something is duplicative, if something is unnecessary, this is all dollars of the American people that fund this. It's not a private corporation where we stamp something out and we bring it to market and we add to the GDP. It's your money and everybody else that goes to work. So if it's not necessary, then it's the responsible thing to say it has to go. And I don't care whether you're talking about national defense or budgeting in the government or anything else. The moment that the number one consideration is perception, that's when people really get hurt.
So I want you to hear Nancy Pelosi, because I know she's a partisan. I know she's a political hack, but this is just over the top, even for her cut too.
What they're doing is wrong. And why would we abandon our commitment to the American people and say, okay, we'll keep government open so that you can give tax breaks to the wealthiest people in our country? And by the way, when every shutdown has been a Republican shutdown. Why? Because they don't believe in governance. They just don't believe in it. They don't believe in governance. So for them, a shutdown is a day at the beach. They love it.
Now, you are in Florida, so you could be at the beach. But, Congressman, your thoughts about one of the most dumbest statements ever made?
Look, I'm not at the beach, but I am in Florida. I love the opportunity to talk about the big, beautiful bill and taxes, and maybe this is a bit of that moment because she's bashing it, right? What did Democrats do when they didn't vote for that? They said, you know what, if you go to work for tips as an Uber driver or a hairstylist, as a waiter, we don't want you to, not be taxed on $25,000 of that. We want your taxes to go from 12 to 15%, from 22 to 25, from 23 to 24 to 28, and so on and so on. They want all these tax brackets to go higher and higher, because that's what literally would have happened if everybody voted the way Democrats voted. And she's just playing what she always plays. Admit nothing, deny everything, make counter accusations, lie to the American people about what's really going on. We cut your taxes, and now we're cutting government spending. And it'd be nice if the Democrats would simply say thank you.
It would be interesting. But every shutdown is your fault? I mean, that's an interesting take. Every shutdown is only one party's fault, even though they elected to shut it down and not one person voted for it. It's incredible. So I want to tap into your foreign policy knowledge. Hamas has been given to Sunday at 6. So far, indications are they're not going to accept the deal as it is. But Sunday at 6 or all hell breaks loose. That was put on Truth Social about 30 minutes ago. Congressman, do you think that the 20-point deal, the framework, will be accepted by Hamas?
I hope it's accepted by Hamas because we want this war to come to an end. History tells us that what Hamas does is they say, well, we're interested, but we want these changes. They do it as a delay tactic, and then they just never actually make the deal. That's what's always happened. And the backing that they have these stupid countries that are going out there and saying, you know what, after the genocide you conducted and the bodies that you're holding and everything that you've done, we'd like to make you a state. We'd like to make you a country, and we want everybody else to do it. The Hamas is being rewarded for the terrible things that they've done. And I think they look at this and they say, why should we stop? We continue to be rewarded by these other countries. But here's what they're going to learn from the United States of America and President Trump. He's given them the option for diplomacy. If they don't accept diplomacy, he's going to bring direct action to them. And like you said, it's going to be in the form of all hell breaks loose.
Right. What I find it so interesting now is that this is an American proposal backed by the Israelis. It's a consensus proposal backed by every country in the region: Jordan, UAE, Qatar. The pressure they can, Saudi Arabia, the pressure they can put on Hamas. If Qatar ever had leverage, which they do, over Hamas, they have to say, take this deal, right? And if they do have that leverage, you're out,
right?
Yeah.
What does it say? It says, hey, Gaza's going to be de-radicalized. It's going to be redeveloped for the benefit of the people. All of those hostages, they come back, whether they're hostages that have been killed, their bodies are returned, or they're still alive, they come back. After these hostages are returned, there will be prisoners from Gaza that Israel will return. The list goes on. It's beneficial to both sides. But again, Hamas does not want to relinquish any power, any relevance in the world. They will use their people as shields. They will use their people. They will throw them in front of a rifle if they need to go out there and cry that, the world needs to give them sympathy for the genocide that they continue to conduct. And I think that's the game that they continue to play.
Here's General Jack Keane, cut 39.
If they're going to fold their hands here and continue to fight, Netanyahu is very clear, and he's got the president's support for it. He's going to go in there and finish it. They've got them completely surrounded. They moved close to 1 million people out of Gaza City. And And it's really quite remarkable. So what is going to be left is largely Hamas and those that are supporting Hamas. And they will go in there and systematically deal with them. Now, it will take time. This isn't going to end in just a couple of weeks. It'll take some months, and it'll take some patience if that is the objective. But Netanyahu, I support him completely on this. He's clear-eyed. He's got to finish these guys once and for all.
So, and we'll see what's going to happen, and the world's going to be outraged, but I think less outraged because they all signed off on this deal. And if Hamas doesn't, it's clearly they're to blame.
Clearly. And the world has to have the strength, move away from the weakness that they had to say. Like I touched on this already. You have these countries like Canada and France and others saying, we want to recognize a Palestinian state today. It does nothing other than empower the terrorists to go out there and do things like that and say, yeah, see, we should continue this fight that we're having. We should keep holding these hostages. We should keep going out there and looking for ways to kill innocents, whatever they can do, because they're being rewarded for it. But that reward comes to an end when Israel comes in there and says your life is null and void and until the point that there are no more terrorists whatsoever. And I believe that they can get to that point 100%.
Is Congressman Brian Mast, looking happy about a mutual defense pact with Qatar? If they're attacked, we're going to attack whoever attacked them? Because I know some Republicans and Democrats were caught by surprise by that deal that the president, I guess, is signing off on.
The president is coming to this as he has any of these negotiations, whether it's Armenia and Azerbaijan, whether it's India and Pakistan, whether it's Russia and Ukraine, and looking at it and say, listen, let's identify all of the problems, the concerns of any of the sides, and let's actually try to work through them. And he tries to do that as an honest player. And this is what he's doing again. And some people don't like it, but he's always coming from a new vantage point in order to get to the world to a place that they were not at a week ago and that they were not at a year ago or even a decade ago. So, and that's how he keeps moving the ball.
The president says that we're having a shooting war right now with the cartels in Central and South America. Do you see it that way? And are you glad we're doing it?
This is a continuation of what I just said. He's taking the fight to entities, the United Cartel, the Gulf Cartel, the Sinaloa Cartel, MS-13, Tren de Aragua, take your pick of them, that have been waging war against America for years and decades, killing thousands of our people every year, invading our shores. And he's saying, I'm going to come from a new vantage point on this. We're going to destroy you before you destroy the lives of our American people. He has 100% of my support to do this.
Here is the Democrats who suddenly say, well, I don't think this is legal. Cut 28.
This use of U.S. military firepower is unprecedented and is drawing accusations that the strikes are illegal.
Targeting drug smuggling boats with military strikes, there's no legal precedent.
Mr. Secretary, what legal authority did the Pentagon invoke to strike that boat full of drug smugglers?
It is a massive expansion of presidential authority against the rules that abide by the use of military force.
So you hear MSNBC and CNN pushing that line, and you hear Cory Booker welcoming it. I just remember this President Obama, is that how you say it? I remember him droning people in Yemen and all throughout the continent of Africa and the Middle East. I'm pretty sure they weren't read the Miranda rights. What's the difference?
There's no difference. Sometimes you wonder if these people think before they open their mouth. Did the president have the authority to target the drug smuggling boat? That's a real question that they ask. They should think about it, look in the mirror before they speak. But let's actually examine it, right? For the president to have authority, he can have a declaration of war. He can have an authorized use of military force. Those are two separate things. Or he can have his Article 2 authority as the commander-in-chief of the United States, tasked with protecting the national security of our incredible nation against a clear and present threat, a clear and present danger. And that is exactly what he is doing, utilizing his Article 2 authority to protect the United States of America from this threat that is taking tens of thousands of lives every single year. I applaud him for doing so. He has every authority that he needs. He doesn't need Congress to do something.
I got to give CNN credit. They sat down with a cartel member. Obviously, his identity is being hidden. Listen to what he said. Cut 27.
What President Trump has been doing has been making your job tougher.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
But it's becoming more difficult, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at the border and now blowing up the boats on the way to the border. That's pretty cool.
Look, you're any mariner on one of these drug smuggling boats. Before you leave the dock today, you are sitting there having second thoughts about whether you are going to set sail to sea, and you're looking up in the sky thinking, as soon as I get 100 miles offshore, am I about to cease to exist in this world because of the drugs I'm bringing to America? And the probability is yes, because we finally have a strong commander-in-chief. And the reality is he's right for doing so.
Lastly, Ukraine, the president's going to be providing intelligence to the Ukrainians on energy sites inside Russia. That's a huge story today. And we're debating whether to give them Tomahawks and Barracudas to be able to hit 500 miles into that country. Does Brian Mast support? What would you support of that?
Yes. So let me just start by answering in the affirmative. Yes, I support this. Russia has been increasingly escalating, bringing that fight into Poland, bringing the fight into Estonia, flying their jets in there, their drones in there, other places. They are testing the waters over and over again. President Trump, rightfully looking at this, said, okay, we're going to increase the intelligence that we're giving them, whether it's with HIMARS or something else. Let's make sure that they have the capabilities to go out there and defeat Russia's supply chain, the things that they need to continue funding and selling and prosecuting this war. Let's bring that supply chain to an end so that this can come to an end in totality.
All right, Congressman Brian Mast, it's a consequential time. All your committees are impactful ones. I appreciate it. Hopefully you'll get back to work next week. Do you have a prediction?
Look, I think we'll be back there on Monday. I think the Democrats end up having to take this vote 3, 4, 5 times throughout the week, and they lose more and more people each time because there's absolutely no reason for them to not fund the government right now other than they just want to have a fight with President Trump, and they want to go out there and say, hey, illegals are more important than the American people and saving their dollars. So we're going to continue to be obstinate, and I think it runs thin, and I think they're done with it. I might be proven wrong, but I think they're done with it by the end of the week.
Congressman Brian Mast, thanks so much of Florida. Appreciate it.
An industry that in the next 1 year, the vast majority of programmers will be replaced by AI programmers. We also believe that within 1 year, you will have graduate level mathematicians that are at the tippy top of graduate math programs. That's 1 year, okay? What happens in 2 years? Well, I've just told you about reasoning, and I've told you about programming, and I've told you about math. Programming plus math are the basis of sort of our whole digital world. So the evidence and the claims from the research groups in OpenAI and Anthropic and so forth is that they're now somewhere around 10 or 20% of the code that they're developing in their research programs is being generated by the computer.
So that is Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, painting a picture of a future that no one could quite figure out, but we are on this path. Tristan Harris has been talking about this almost since the advent of AI, and we remember Sam Altman, I think it was on 2020 or 60 Minutes, or I think it was ABC, just talking about what AI does, and my jaw was on the ground, and Tristan, yours wasn't. And why? You kind of saw the path that we're heading on. What do you think about what Eric Schmidt said about the acceleration of AI?
Yeah, so Eric was just talking about how AI is going to be as good a mathematician as the best human mathematicians in the next year and is going to outcompete programmers. So I don't remember when that actual quote happened. I think it was actually a few months ago now. Since we've last seen each other, Brian, AI has now won gold in the International Math Olympiad. That is a crazy accomplishment. People would have never believed you if that was possible.
Beat every human.
Beating the humans. At Anthropic, one of the leading AI companies, the CEO Dario Amodei said that AI is writing 70 to 90% of the code. This is crazy. And programming is going to be one of the first jobs that AI automates, because what people need to know is these companies are not in a race to cure cancer. They're not in a race to solve climate change. They're not in a race to create tutors. They're in a race to build artificial general intelligence, which is the ability to have an AI, an artificial mind that can do everything that a human mind can do in the economy. So think about any job in the economy. If you have a desk job, you won't have a job, because the whole mission statement of these companies is to build something that can match human performance. And what's the best way to get there? Well, how do we make AI? We write code and we program it. So what happens when the AI companies automate AI research? So think of your OpenAI.
Right.
You've got several hundred employees. They're doing AI research. They're manually reading papers, manually programming things. What happens when I can automate an AI researcher? Now I can spin up 100 million digital AI researchers that are just doing research 24/7. They don't whistleblow. They don't complain. They don't have to be paid for healthcare. That's why these companies are racing to automate programming.
But we did see this week that the president signed an executive order to get AI to work on child cancer.
Yeah.
Why was that even necessary? I thought we would be working on that with all the money that's pouring into cancer.
You would think so. Yeah. You would think so. Now, I just want to first say, now, obviously, AI has unbelievable upside, and that's why people are so excited about it.
Like things like what I just mentioned.
Yeah, just things like what you just mentioned, and that it will be able to invent new cancer drugs. But we should be asking the question, why aren't we trying to go upstream and regulate all the carcinogens that are giving everybody cancer, rather than sort of create brand new chemicals or proteins that can also have side effects that cause even more problems? We're not trying to deal with the actual source of the problem. We're just trying to throw more money downstream at helping to mitigate the problem. And
Gotcha.
I think that AI, we need to be applying it to regulating the production of carcinogens.
You mentioned how many jobs are going to disappear.
Yeah.
And how is that different than any other time?
Yeah, this
when
is
we have mass production, when Henry Ford came in, and
exactly. So this is,
and then we have the horse. Everybody, that's how you transport yourself, and in comes the car. What's going to happen to those horse breeders?
Right, exactly.
Why
and
is this?
And they always find a new job. But here's what's different this time, Brian. We always, we had the elevator man, then we automate the elevator man. We had the bank teller, we automate the bank teller. But what's different about AI from all other technologies is that the whole mission statement of OpenAI and Google and all these companies is to be able to do everything that a human can do, meaning thinking, science, generating hypotheses, legal analysis, marketing, writing scripts, Hollywood, generating movies, generating music. And it's already doing a vast percentage of those things almost as good as humans are.
But aren't they living off our knowledge?
Yes, they're training all off of our data. In fact, the more you use ChatGPT, you're actually giving it the training data to obsolete you. And so people
need to understand. What if I'm a knucklehead on AI and I'm feeding erroneous things into AI? Right? If I'm on ChatGPT and I'm putting in facts and they go to Wikipedia to gather those facts and Wikipedia's 50% wrong.
Well, this is what we call sort of the Ouroboros problem, the snake eating its own tail, because AI is training on the internet that itself is imperfect. People are using AI to generate AI slop, which then starts to fill the internet.
Yeah.
Then that gets training. So, it's like the inmates are running the asylum. We have kind of the worst of human nature sort of training the AIs. That's all true, but there's also a bunch of high quality training data that companies are paying for. And that's why we have to just look at the raw evidence. It is beating us at math. It's beating us at programming. It's beating us at certain kinds of science. It's already inventing new materials, new antibiotics. And if it's good at these things and the more people use it, it's going to just learn how to take their job. People have to realize that the end game of this is the mass concentration and wealth and power into a handful of companies. Because think about your company. Right now, all these customers pay the company, and then instead of the company paying all the employees, it's going to say, well, I could pay this expensive employee, or I could just pay an AI that works for less than minimum wage who works 24/7.
So are we going to win this race? Well, we're winning. But Eric Schmidt of Google says this about China.
China is competing with open weights and open training data, and the U.S. is largely and majority focused on closed weights, closed data. That means that the majority of the world, think of it as the Belt and Road Initiative, are going to use Chinese models and not American models. We better also be competing with the Chinese in day-to-day stuff. Their work ethic's incredible. They're well-funded. It's not the crazy valuations that we have in America.
Right.
They can't raise the capital, but they can win across that.
Yeah.
Do you agree with everything he said?
So,
and the power. They have much more power than we do.
You mean energy specifically?
Energy, I should say.
Energy, yeah. They're building energy way faster than we can, and that's one of the rate-limiting factors. One of the few factors that the U.S. has to slow China down is that we have the advanced GPUs and chips that they depend on.
NVIDIA.
The NVIDIA chips. And I'll just say bluntly, I disagree with the decision to sell China these NVIDIA H20 chips that happened recently. Dario Amodei said that this is really giving away the keys to the castle, because right now, the biggest rate
that you just
sorry, Dario, he's the CEO of Anthropic. So think of like the Sam Altman for the other leading company.
Sure.
And he basically said, if we sell them the chips, this is the number one reason why they're not making as much progress as we are. And if we give them those chips, it's like, would you sell the whole world uranium or sell the Soviet Union uranium so that they're building nuclear weapons?
But people say that's not the higher level chips. We're going to the 20s instead of the 100s or something like that.
Yeah, these are these sort of semi-handicapped chips, the H20s versus these things called the H200s. What matters for people that they should know is that, you know, when you use ChatGPT and it does this like more reasoning now, it kind of thinks through the answer, that's using this different kind of processing called inference. I don't want to bore your listeners with the technical details, but that kind of processing of reasoning through a problem is going to take up more of the compute of AI, and that's what these chips, these H20s, are really good for.
Okay.
So we're selling them the chips to do more thinking faster, which is going to outcompete
I
us.
should tell everyone Sunday at 10 o'clock you're going to be on with me. Tristan Harris is with us. Lastly, you told me, I don't really care much, if I'm paraphrasing correctly, if we beat China or not, because we beat them to the internet. How did that work out?
Exactly. Well, we beat them specifically to social media.
Do you feel
and that
differently? Yes. Do you feel differently now? Do you feel as though we have to win now? Have you changed your mindset on this?
There's two risks we have to manage, Brian. There's the risk of not building AI and China wins, and then there's the risk of building AI and doing it so recklessly that we sort of shoot ourselves in the foot. And we're currently not doing a great job of both because we're recklessly
Do you feel like
racing.
we're reckless?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, think about all the cases of AI psychosis. We worked with the family of Adam Rain, the young man who committed suicide because ChatGPT went from homework assistant to suicide assistant over the course of 6 months. It mentioned the word suicide 6 times more than he mentioned it on his own. And when we're releasing this technology in a way to young people and saying, this is your best tutor, this is your best friend, this is your best therapist, and it has a kind of oracular, oracle-like quality, it answers every question confidently and knows your intimate details better than anybody else, we're starting to see people already have attachment disorders because we're rolling this out to children without actually thinking through it, just like we did with social media. And
Tristan, yeah, unfortunately, the music's going to get louder and overwhelm us, but we just are scratching the surface. It is fascinating, especially talking to someone who understands it so much, so well. Tristan Harris, co-founder of Center for Humane Technology. Thanks.